In this video, I give you my opinion on DuraPik, the reusable flosser. Hey, it's John from electricteeth here. We assist you in selecting the right dental care products and understanding common dental healthcare topics. So I'm going to get straight to the point and keep this verdict nice and short for you. Do not buy DuraPik. It's not very good. Conceptually, the idea is right. Unfortunately, the execution is poor and it is a real disappointment. I would advise sticking to regular floss that you wrap around your fingers, or alternatively source Quip's refillable floss pick. So that's my overall verdict, but let me go into a little bit more detail to give you an understanding as to why I came to that conclusion. DuraPik launched on crowdfunding platform Kickstarter and was successfully funded in 2020. About a year on, this began shipping in the summer of 2021, and unfortunately the final product isn't as good as I hoped for. Despite delays due to the pandemic and some design iterations, it really just doesn't fulfill the expectations that I had of it. Conceptually, it's a really good idea. The idea is that you use this as a refillable flosser. So you wrap floss around these sort of teeth, if you like, on the end of the flosser, and it allows you to easily move the floss in between the teeth in your mouth and clean more effectively. And it's reusable because you get rid of the floss each time you finish with it, and you re-wrap new floss each time you need a new piece on the flosser. The fact that it's made out of metals means it's strong and durable, and I do really like that about it, but unfortunately that also goes against it as well, and let me explain why. So the design is really nice. I actually like the metal construction. It feels solid in hand. Now I have the Arctic blue colour here, which is one of 5 colour options I had at the choice of backing it. Unfortunately, one thing to note is that the colour that actually arrived here is quite a bit different to the colour I expected. I expected a much more polished kind of blue colour, and instead I've got this much more muted blue, which I don't dislike, but it's not what I actually expected. Now the metal is nice because it's durable, but it's actually got quite square edges, which is nice in a way, but it's also a little bit rough. Particularly at the end of the DuraPik handle, it can feel a little bit scratchy in the hand and a little bit harsher than you might potentially expect it to be. Now that is a small negative in the scheme of things, to be perfectly honest with you, but the softer plastics that you often get on some products can actually be better because they are softer on the teeth and gums if they come into contact with the tooth surfaces and the gum surfaces, and this is designed to be more environmentally friendly, and although it does away with plastics, if it's continually reused isn't too bad for the environment, all things considered, and you want something that works well in the mouth. So whilst the metal is durable, the harsher elements to it perhaps go against this a little bit. So this does actually come with a toothpick built into the handle itself. Now I've got a few issues with this. First and foremost, I would never advise anyone use this toothpick on their teeth. It's just way too big and too blunt an object to use. It's never going to go in between the teeth satisfactorily and potentially could cause damage if not used carefully. Another issue I've got with it is the one that I received was bent both horizontally and vertically, and although it fits securely into the actual handle of the flosser, it scratches as it goes in sort of the body here, and I can already see the paint finish actually coming off the toothpick element itself, so that isn't exactly great, but I'm not going to be using this flosser at all, because whilst refillable is a really good idea and I've used many products like this, I've got to say I'm all fingers and thumbs with this. You know, the concept of wrapping around these little clips that you have on the head part of this flosser is really great, but they're almost too small and I'm struggling to actually wrap the floss around. It takes me a minimum of 10 if not 20 seconds to wrap the floss around there, and it can easily come unraveled or unclipped because it's just so small. Now the floss that they have provided is vegan, which is great, and it's biodegradable, which is also great, but the problem is the floss sort of comes a little apart a bit, so you actually end up with multiple sort of strands to this floss, so actually then wrapping it around the flosser handle can be difficult, and then you actually find when you're using this in the mouth, the floss is quite weak. It gets quite loose on the floss head itself here, and then potentially that makes flossing a little bit more difficult. Now loose floss isn't the worst thing in the world, but then that loose thing can also get kind of caught between the teeth, and I've actually found then the waxed finish to the floss means it actually slips off of these sort of pegs in which are holding the floss on here, so it can either slip off, it can come unraveled, and the floss actually breaks quite easily as well. Now, I haven't had too many breakages, but I've seen many people reporting after just 3 or 4 teeth flossing in between them, it's breaking very easily. So you're having to re-thread the handle potentially multiple times on each use. So overall, just the final execution and that unfortunately isn't great, and I think we lost out on some of the environmentally friendly elements to it if you're going to have to keep flossing or using more pieces of floss on the actual handle itself. And just actually when you're using it, the metal in the mouth can be quite harsh, as I've mentioned already. Now, this is of course personal opinion, but I don't particularly like this string floss. I personally prefer the wider tape style flosses. It feels a bit more gentle on the teeth and gums, and for me it feels like it cleans more effectively. Now, I've got no data to actually back that up, but that's just something I prefer over the string floss. It can feel a little bit harsh, particularly if you sort of move it between the teeth with a little bit too much force. It can kind of feel like it's pushing down into the gums with much more force than it kind of needs to be in comparison to the wider tape flosses. Now, another little thing, and I have to stress that DuraPik didn't specifically state where this would actually ship from, but I'd got the impression that because this was being designed and made by a group of people both from Australia and Canada, that it might have been made in one of those countries, but in fact it was made in China. So I was a little bit disappointed to see that it was made in China rather than Canada or Australia. But to be fair to DuraPik, they didn't specifically state where it was going to be made in their crowdfunding campaign. And probably the last thing to consider here and why DuraPik doesn't actually work is the cost. Now, this cost me around about 25 British pounds, including shipping. That's about 29 Canadian dollars or 30 US dollars based on the exchange rate. It was all priced in Canadian dollars at the time of purchase, hence the slightly favourable price for Canadians. So that's quite expensive for just a flosser. Then you've got the cost of the floss itself to go on top of that. Now, you did get one reel included, but the replacement reels cost around 11 to 12 pounds, or about 14 American dollars, or around about 18 Canadian dollars. And when you compare that to the price of regular string or dental floss, that's quite expensive. Now, for that price, you do get 2 reels, and it is of course more environmentally friendly because it's biodegradable, but that's quite a significant price difference that you're paying for the floss there, so it's something to weigh up as well. So ultimately, I do love the concept of this. I'm just disappointed in the actual floss itself. The time it takes to reuse the flosser, it just makes flossing potentially more awkward in the long run. Although it makes it easier to actually clean in the teeth once it's all in use, the weak floss and the threading just, for me, counts this out, and it's not going to be a product I'm going to continue to use ongoing. I would strongly recommend sticking to regular dental floss wrapped around your fingers, or if you can, source Quip's refillable floss pick. For me, that works a lot better. It's a lot easier to use, particularly when refilling or rethreading the floss pick itself. So there we have it. That's my overall verdict on it. If you did find this video useful, please do give it a thumbs up. For more videos like this, click subscribe. But until next time, thanks for watching.